How do you get inspiration for your fashion design portfolio, and why is it so important? Most people underestimate the importance of inspiration in fashion design, and often it's an afterthought in the portfolio process. That is all backwards. In this video, I'm going to share with you why inspiration is so important, how it's used in the fashion industry, and I'll reveal to you my top 3 ways of getting inspiration. To follow along, I want you to download the free worksheet, which goes through these topics in depth. Take notes as we go through this together. Inspiration is the key aspect in creating a story for your collection. Before I worked in the garment industry, I had no idea how important inspiration was in the storytelling process. Why is the story so important? Because when you're presenting your collection, often that story is what sells the collection. So in that process, you have to convince so many different other teams that your collection is correct for the brand and the customer of the brand. It starts by convincing the product creation team, then it moves into convincing management, sales, marketing, merchandising, and buyers for retail stores. So you have to sell your idea and that story before you'll get buy-in. They buy into the idea and the story before they'll buy into the collection and purchase it. So what should the story say? The story needs to say where and why you got that inspiration. It needs to say why it's right for that customer and the brand. It needs to be time relevant to what's going on in the industry and in our lives to create a cohesive look. For example, over the past several years, sustainability has been a big story around clothing and around many industries. Companies are looking for more ways to be more sustainable and to communicate that to their customers. The inspiration also drives the design aesthetic in the collection. Besides the design team needing that inspiration to tell the story, there are other teams that utilize that inspiration, like the marketing team. The marketing team will take that inspiration and they'll integrate it into advertising campaigns for magazines, their stores, or through different sponsored events. That communication might also be explained through hang tags or packaging so that the end customer knows what the importance was of that inspiration. Let's talk about inspiration in the portfolio. Inspiration in a portfolio is often the image behind the fashion illustration and the flat sketch. Now, in some portfolios, you might have different collections with different inspiration. For example, maybe you have an evening wear collection with one inspiration and a beachwear collection with a different inspiration. Schools are looking for a cohesive look through the inspiration that the designer selected, and they are looking for cohesiveness in the collection. They want to be able to see that inspiration coming through the design of the clothes in some sort of way. The schools know that inspiration is key in that storytelling process, and that is what makes a collection successful. So now I want to share with you my top 3 ways of getting inspiration for your portfolio. Tip number 1 is to get out in nature or out on a walk, go somewhere, take photos. So you can get so much inspiration from not only nature, but also from architecture. Let's dive into my photo process, and I want to share with you a tip for how to look at those photos differently. There are so many different shapes and patterns that you're going to find in nature that will inspire you to create. Here we have a cityscape of a bridge going over the water in Lucerne, Switzerland, and just the beautiful line of flowers might inspire you to have a line of some sort of shape on a garment. You can also, of course, look at architecture, and sometimes different architecture can inspire you with the different cuts of lines and how that can be influenced in garments. So beyond just looking at the photos in nature, one of the things I love to do is to play around with the actual photographs and the settings. So if we edit them, we can really play around with the different balances, adding different filters. And one of my favorites is actually to go to monochrome to see the highs and lows of the image itself. We're just kind of playing it around with it to look at it in a different way. And sometimes just pulling out the colors away from the image lets us view the lines and the curves in another way. And sometimes we see the geometry in another way, and the way things flow, the composition of the image itself, and the composition of nature. Try changing the photos as I've shown you to get a different perspective on that photo. Now, you don't have to use the entire photo on the background of your portfolio. You can always cut it out, take parts of it, little bits and pieces, or use it in Photoshop and really take it even more abstract if you'd like. After you've taken your photos and picked your top few favorites, I want you to look at those photos and figure out what might you be able to pull from those photos to inspire you and your design aesthetic? And what kind of stories could you tell from those photos? Tip number 2 is fabrics. Go into a fabric store if you like to sew, or even if you don't like to sew, if you like to design, you are going to love to work with fabrics eventually. So go to the fabric store. That fabric can often offer a lot of inspiration. It can give us direction for which colors we might want to go with or which types of fabrics we want to go with. That fabric can also be used as photos in the background in different ways. Can pull out different textures or different images with the fabrics. And tip number 3 is to use the fashion design book. So while this doesn't offer any sort of background inspiration photos, it can definitely get you out of a rut if you haven't been able to design much lately, or if you're just looking to expand your design skills. With the fashion design book, you can look through the book and something in there might inspire you to create a new design. You can take out a design detail from one style and apply it to another style. You can look at only the outside silhouettes to inspire you that way, or you can learn different vocabulary for what might be missing in your terminology. It really helps you become a better designer. Now, you can also use the same process if you are a sewist and designing for your own collection. It will help make a cohesive look in your wardrobe. So your homework today is to go out on a walk and snap some photos with your phone. I want you to look at anything that might inspire you so that you can use that for your first sketch with the fashion design book. That storytelling process might take a little bit of time to get used to and to get into it, but start practicing. If you are an aspiring designer, it is really important to start practicing those storytelling skills. Be confident when you tell your story. This helps make that collection more impactful. You'll find many more videos just like this one through QR codes in the fashion design book. The fashion design book teaches you how to draw flat garment sketches so that you can envision the silhouettes and the design details accurately. You'll find the fashion design book on Amazon and most online book retail stores. You can click the link in the description to buy yours today if you haven't already. I'm Gina Renee, and I teach online pattern making and design courses so that you can design and sew clothes you love that fit. If you've enjoyed today's video, go ahead and like it and subscribe. And thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you in the next one.